Our next speaker is John Koster, Snohomish County Councilman, running for Rick Larson's position in Congressional District 2.
You know, that's the people's position, Michelle. Well, it is. It's the people's house. Man, I made all kinds of notes here while you were talking, too. Just a couple comments. I guess I view the battle as being a little bit different, the war, if you will. In fact, we've been in this war for a lot of years, and there's been too many people sitting on the sidelines and spending their time hollering at the TV, ticked off about what's going on or oblivious to what's happening. And organizations like this have given them a place to go. So I thank you for that. You have people reading the Constitution, studying that. You probably know more than, most of you probably know more than I do about it. But I mean, you know more than the average individual. It's a scary group because you are so knowledgeable, especially for politicians. But, and I say that a little tongue-in-cheek, but in all seriousness, I am Tea Party movement, patriot movement. To me, is one of the most exciting things that happened in this country for a long time, especially for a fellow that's been involved for 15 years, never figured he'd ever be involved in politics. All I want to do is milk my cows and leave me alone, man. I want to run my farm, milk my cows, raise my family, and be left alone. But that was not to be. I was telling a group the other night that my folks were in the dairy business before me, and I can remember my folks milking with the old surge buckets, you know, but they milked 40 cows by hand before they even had surge buckets. My mom would milk 20, my dad would milk 20, and then my dad would go to the lumber mill and pull lumber on the green chain 8 hours a day between milkings. You know, those were the days, and all they wanted was to be free. You know, you give people their freedom, allow them to utilize their intelligence and their innovation, and a strong back and a desire to succeed, and people will be free. People will be happy. My folks didn't need a stimulus package. They didn't need a bailout. They just needed to be left alone. And that's pretty much how I felt for a lot of years on the farm. My wife and I were there for 23 years. After my mom passed away, she was only 41 at that time, and Dad said, I don't have any reason to work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, so my wife and I got the farm. Interesting little story about that, just a little anecdotal story here before I launch into the diatribe here. Most people don't know exactly how my dad decided who was going to get the opportunity to buy a farm. When Dad made the announcement that he was going to sell the farm and the cows, my older brother and I were standing there, and I told him my wife and I had talked about that for a number of years. And he said, well, all right. And my brother spoke up, my older brother, and says, well, you know, I think I'd like to have an opportunity to buy the cows too. So my dad was a wise man, and I didn't realize how wise he was until later, but he said, you know, the best way to destroy families and friendships are partnerships. He took a quarter out of his pocket. This is a true story. It's a true story. He took a quarter out of his pocket, and he said, one of you is going to win the coin toss, and the other one of you is going to walk away. And the smartest thing I ever did was tell my brother, you call it in the air, because I won the coin toss. So that's how I got it. That's how I got the opportunity to be in the dairy business. But
how do you and your brother get along now?
Absolutely fabulous.
That's awesome.
Absolutely fabulous. We would lay down our life for one another. That's just the way it is. As it ought to be. I guess I would typify that war as you either believe in the people or you believe in government. You either believe our Constitution is based on a value system, Judeo-Christian values, and that's the way it was designed, our law, our Constitution, or you do believe that truth is relative, and that what empowers government to do what they dang well please and interpret that any way they want to. And that's part of the problem. Our Constitution, I mean, you got to cling, the more I know and the more I see in recent years, the more I cling to that, read that, and I'll tell you, we got to hold that, hold it near and dear. But anyway, if somebody would have asked me a year ago if I was going to run for Congress, I'd have said no. Why would I want to go to that snake pit? But I got to tell you, as some of you have heard me say, I never dreamed I'd see the things happen that I've seen happen in my country in the last few years. And that goes beyond this administration. It started before this administration. But I never believed I never believed that business was ever too big to fail. You know, I didn't believe that I'd ever see government take over auto companies or mortgage companies, or, you know, we still own General Motors. We can call it government motors. It's partly ours now, still, in spite of the, or AIG, or that government would tell private companies what their CEOs could make, or couldn't make, I should say. 10 years ago, when I ran against Rick Larson, I served 6 years in the legislature. That was a lonely place, and for conservative. So if you want to ask me that question on Republicans later, I'll be happy to answer for you. But I've been on the county council now. I'm in my 3rd term. I look at this deficit. I look at the spending. I look at my 9 grandchildren, 4 kids and 9 grandchildren, and wonder what kind of a world we are going to leave in, what kind of opportunities they will have or not have. I was asked today, what's your primary reason for running? I suppose I could say it's the economy, it's jobs, it's deficit, it's the government spending. I said I have 9 good reasons, and they're all 12 and under. And that's the reason I do what I do, okay? I'm blessed. I don't need to do this for me. I don't need to do this for me. None of my grandkids, and some of you have heard me say this, I apologize, none of my grandkids are more than 30 minutes from my house. I can see them pretty much any day I want to see them. And that was not an easy decision to give that up, to go to Washington, D.C., of all places. So I'm not enamored by the title, I'm not enamored by living in D.C., but I want my country back. I want a responsible government. I want a government that quits spending money they don't have. They just don't have it. You all balance your budgets. You know, they say they can't do a balanced budget at the federal level. You know, they can't. They just don't want to. They continue to grow government. I've got those same figures too. Cato Institute's a great place to go get those statistics. And you know, when you really get down with Department of Agriculture, Department of Education, Energy, and HUD, really starts costing you per household. It breaks it right down per household, right to the dollar for you. Every household that costs you just about $1,000 a year for the Department of Agriculture. Just for the Department of Agriculture. For education, it's, well, what is it here? If I had my glasses on, I could probably tell you a lot better, but it's like $667 per household. And you know, you're not wrong. You know, you abolish the Department of Education. I can't find anywhere in the Constitution where the federal government has any business in the education of my children or my grandchildren. Thank you very much. You know, they want to do this ridiculous cap and trade based on, it's just nonsense. Do I believe climate's changing? Yeah, it's been changing since the good Lord created the earth, and it's going to continue to change. Do I believe man had anything to do with it? No, absolutely not. You know, where do you begin on this? You know, we're not creating jobs. Keynesian economic policies failed. Great book. Some of you probably read The Forgotten Man. It's a great book. It helped me really understand how these progressives thought and think, where they went and where they came. They just picked up where they left off in 1940. After the Second World War began, they went to the colleges and universities, became teachers and professors. Now they've all surfaced again. They intend to destroy your country, frankly. But you know, being a business guy, to me it's not rocket science to get business going in this country again. I mean, for me as a business person, I need a government out of my life. You got to reduce. If you're going to reduce spending, you're going to have to reduce these agencies. You're going to have to eliminate some of these agencies entirely. That's how you're going to have, because you're going to have to cut taxes and reduce taxes. I'd like no taxes better.